Hi, I'm Donna Jariasha, CEO and founder of the Magnetic Life Club. Today I want to talk to you about when trauma becomes the safety zone. So most of us, at some stage in our life, feel frustrated by our inability to create something that we want. And we feel like we're just throwing ourselves at it again and again. And it's like there's some invisible force stopping us from having it. Like we're cursed or doomed or, and this is my personal favorite, or the universe will not allow us to succeed. But the truth is that it's what's inside us that is keeping us stuck and struggling. And today I want to talk more about that and about how you can identify and release it so that you can remove the resistance to creating in your life, the resistance that this is creating in your life, right? So our brains are really interesting, especially the unconscious brain, the limbic system, or we call it the reptilian brain, which just wants to keep you alive. And that is its sole job, to keep you alive. So whenever something happens to us that we survive, then that becomes the circumstances, conditions and feelings that the unconscious searches out even more to survive, right? Because it knows that in that situation it can survive. Now this is quite handy if you think about it, until it isn't anymore. So it's handy in teaching us to run away from things that might harm us, but not so handy when it comes to deciding to keep us in a situation we don't consciously want to be in anymore, because the unconscious mind knows that it can survive there. So an example with this, because this happens, this like learning of the unconscious brain happens when we're very small, so maybe 0 to 4 years old, right? So you can imagine a child that's in a toxic situation, maybe experiences toxic shame, to the point where they feel like there is something wrong or not right about them, but they didn't die. So what happens is that they survive. Even though the toxic shame hurts them, they survive, they do not perish. And that is what the unconscious mind gets out of that. It sees it as a survivable situation, which is just totally wrong, right? And you might know somebody like this, somebody who seems to always end up in abusive relationships, say. It's just one example how it can play out. And then all they do is talk about how horrible this relationship is and how awful their partner is, and sometimes they're even all dinged up, right? But they don't leave. When they do manage to take themselves away from it, it's not long before they end up in another relationship the same, or even crazier. They somehow attract someone into their life who treats them really well. But then they can't tolerate that, right? And they leave and they end up in another abusive one. And the reasons they are doing it is that as a child, the survival gets learned. And in order to survive, I should find places to feel shame and then not die from it, right? Because the unconscious brain can survive it. It knows it can live through toxic shame or abuse, but it doesn't know if it can survive other things like abundance or joy or love, which consciously sounds really crazy, but we're not talking about the conscious mind now, we're talking about a deeper level. So I already know, if I already know that I can outrun a lion, why would I go over there and try something new that I don't know if I can survive? So the environment becomes a thing that you search out for in yourself and in others. And if it is missing, it feels like there's something wrong. When it is there, it feels like it is okay. Because this environment has become the comfort zone for which you know the rules, for which you know you can survive. Like you fit into that and nothing else feels quite right. And you put it down to many other things, your destiny, a curse, doomed. But the truth is that you are choosing it. You're seeking it out and choosing it, because as awful as it is, as terrible as it sounds, it is your comfort zone, your safety zone in which you know you can survive. So everything unknown is risky. Even things that we consciously know are good. But to the unconscious mind, those things are scary. So the survival safety pattern works like this for the small child, right? So one, the child's brain experiences a threat to their belonging. And it's often a perceived threat of a 3-year-old mind. So to us as an adult, it might not even be a real threat, right? So a perceived threat of a 3-year-old mind. And it's their interpretation of that thing. Now the child cannot fight and it cannot flee. So the second thing that happens is if you cannot fight and you cannot flee, but you do not perish, you survive it. So the third thing is that the threatening experience becomes an essential element in not perishing or dying, all right? So abuse becomes an element of survival. Being criticized, being judged, overthinking, being shamed, these become essential elements of survival. We know how to play that game, so we will keep finding ways to play that game. It might hurt. but we know we can survive it. That game over there, we don't know that one, have no idea if we will survive that. So we cannot go there. The fourth thing is that this creates a situation where our system values the threat as a key ingredient to our survival. We know how to navigate within that. We know how to survive because we've done it before. There is no good reason that you don't have what it is that you want in your life, except for the good reason that your unconscious had made up a long time ago. There is no good reason you don't have it, except for the one that you are hanging on to, because it feels safer to hold on to suffering than to create what you want. If this is resonating with you, I want you to know that it does not have to stay this way, right? This loop that you're in, this oscillating pattern, does not have to stay this way. And recognizing the pattern is the first essential step to being able to break it. But being aware of it is not enough to get rid of it fully. You're going to need help releasing it. It's been there a very long time, and there are depth and layers to it that you're not able to reach or comprehend. So if you're recognizing this within yourself, you're ready to release it because you're just sick of being stuck and struggling, sick of being in circumstances that you consciously don't want to be in anymore, right? And if you want to experience the techniques that start to rewrite the information that is coding you up into that which you are, so you can start to shift away from this trauma patterning, then I want to invite you to come to one of my free presentations on how to magically manifest your dreams. So if that sounds good, go to themagneticlifeclub.com/manifest to register for it. Now, we're going to go through an amazing experience called a Superconscious Recode. It's a closed-eye experience. You don't have to do anything. It's all on me. And the best thing about it is you can come in your pajamas because we won't be able to see you. It's a webinar format. So you can just come in your pajamas. You can keep your eyes closed during it. You don't have to do any of the work. You don't have to revisit the trauma. But we can start to shift this resistance, just keeping you stuck and struggling in your life. So I look forward to seeing you there.